The Princess of the Wizard this time. By Joan Johnson. By Linda Monks.
Illustrated
by Linda Monks. It was Princess Alice's birthday. She was blowing out the 7 candles on her cake when a wicked wizard flew down in the chimney and, "Why didn't you invite me to your party?" he thundered. "Because wicked wizards like turning people to stone," replied Princess Alice. "So they do," said the wizard. And with a flick of his bony fingers, he turned the king and the queen and all the party guests into stones. Then he laughed at a horrible laugh to Princess Alice. They like capturing princesses too. Just then there was a whirring of wings, and through the window flew Princess Alice. The princess fairy godmother. She was late for party. When she saw what had happened, she waved her wand and said, "The princess may try 7 times to escape by changing her color and her shape." But the wizard laughed and said, The wizard just laughed his horrible laugh and said, changing her color and changing her shape would never help Princess Alice escape. Then he snapped his bony fingers again and turned the fairy godmother into stone. The wizard whisked the princess up the chimney and carried her away to his tall dark castle. He locked her into a cellar where she cried herself to sleep. The next day was Monday. The wizard unlocked the cellar door. He was holding the big red book which contained all his magic. "This is your first chance to escape," he said. "I shall count to 100 and then I'll come and find you." He opened his book, closed his eyes, and began to count. Princess Elsa ran outside. The moat of the castle shone blue. Princess Elsa ran outside. The moat of the castle shone blue under the sky. She jumped into the water and turned herself into a blue fish. 99, 98, 99, 100. The wizard opened his eyes, looked in his magic book, and read, "To find where Elsa is hiding from you, look in the moat for a fish that is blue." He finished Elsa out of the moat, took her to his kitchen, which that was full of blue plates and pots of pans. They were all covered in dried up food. On Tuesday morning, the wizard unlocked the kitchen door. He looked at the clean plates and pots and pans, and he grunted. "Chance number 2, he said. Then he opened his book, closed his eyes, and began to count. Princess Elsa ran to the farmyard. She turned herself into a yellow shake and hid in some straw. But the wizard read in his book, the straw in the farmyard is yellow and thick. Princess Elisa's disgust at the shake. He scooped Elisa up and took her to a cupboard, which was that. He scooped Elisa up and took her to a cupboard which was full of yellow socks and all had holes in them. They made his pointy nose. So you like yellow, do you? He said. Then set to work and Jan. He locked her in. On Wednesday morning, the wizard unlocked the cupboard door. Locked and Jan's socks and grunted. Chapter number 3, he said. Chance number 3, he said. And he opened his book, closed his eyes, and began to count. Princess Elisa ran to the meadow. She changed herself into a green grasshopper. But the wizard read in his book, the grasshopper princess is easily seen shimmering away in the meadow so green. So you like green, do you? He said, then set to work in white. He locked her in. He caught Elisa in a net and took her to his green glass room. The basin wall and floors were covered in the wizard's slimy toothpicks. So you like green, do you? He said. Then set to work and wipe. He locked her in. Three more days went by. Each day the princess tried to escape. On Thursday she turned herself into an orange fox and hid in a pile of leaves. On Friday she turned herself into a purple butterfly and fluttered among some purple flowers. On Saturday she turned herself into a black cat and lurked in the black tunnel. But each time the wizard found her and gave her yet more work to do. On Sunday morning, the wizard came to the roof where Elisa had been scrubbing the squinty chimney pots. Instead of grinding, he laughed as he heard a breath. This is your last chance, he said. If I catch you this time, you must stay and work for me for the rest of your life. Then he opened his book, closed his eyes, and began to count. Princess Elisa turned herself into a white glue and flew up into a cloud. But she was hoved above the roof where she was still counting. Where the wizard was still counting, she saw what's writing on the page of his book. So that's how you find me, she cried. I never escape. But puffly the brood. Then she had an idea. She turned herself into a page of the wizard's book, a perfectly blank white page with no writing on it. 99, 98, 99, 100. The wizard finished shouting and began to count. The princess turned into a bird in the sky. She hid into a cloud, then she had one more to try. That was the end of the page, and the wizard turned more to read. But there was no more. The page in his book was blank and white. He flew into a rage. "You stupid book!" he shouted, and he hurried into the moat. She and the book landed with a splash and sank to the bottom. All the wizard's magic was gone. At that moment, in the palace, the king and queen and all the party guests came back to life. "Where's Princess Elisa?" they asked each other. Nobody knew except the fairy godmother. And she only smiled and said nothing. Princess Elisa had turned herself into a white page into a blue page that was swimming into the edge of the moat. She turned herself into a green glass hopper and hopped over the grass. She turned herself into a yellow sheep and ran across the corn in the farmyard. She turned herself into a purple butterfly and over the purple flowers. She turned herself into an orange fox and raced through the orange leaves. She turned herself into a black cat and squeaked through the black tunnel. When she turned herself into a bird and when she turned herself into a white bird and flew all the way back to the palace and in through the window. She pressed on a chair and pushed on the chair and the tea table and changed herself back into a princess. The king and queen and all the party guests hugged her. Then Princess Elisa cut her birthday cake, and everyone had a slice. The end. Thank you for watching. See you on the next book. Princess Mirabelle and the Dragon Pox. The end. Bye.